Hey, we got Salvador on the line. What do you want to ask him?
What are your best methods of making a hard deal work?
I really believe that you're going to have to set a minimum. How much are you trying to make in each deal? Is it 20%, 50%? Are you trying to double your money, triple your money? For me, looking back, I've done good in the sense of so far I've been able to double my money, if not triple my money on my investments. What I'm going to start doing forward is to do more than triple my money in a shorter amount of time. And so if a deal is hard to make happen even at a lower number, which is what I normally do, is
Mhm.
how can I make it work? What can I sacrifice on?
Yeah.
I don't know if I would sacrifice on them unless I came up with a creative way to make it make sense at the end.
I'm Brian Briscoe, host of the Diary of an Apartment Investor podcast. And this podcast is different than everything else out there. I bring together a new and an experienced investor on each episode, and I let the aspiring investor ask the questions that they need answered. So if you're an aspiring investor yourself, you probably will have the exact same questions. Now, before we get to this episode, make sure you hit the subscribe button below and that little bell to make sure you get notified every time we post a new episode. And now, enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Diary of an Apartment Investor podcast. I'm your host, Brian Briscoe. Very excited for today's show. It's another one of the Ask the Expert episodes. Two amazing people on the line with us today. We got Salvador Castaneda and Adam Carroll. So, guys, welcome to the show today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yep. So, Salvador, let's chat a little bit. How are you doing today, first of all?
Great. Doing very good.
Awesome. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I currently live in Iowa, and about 2012, 2013, I kind of had I need to do something moment with my life. But I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just thought I just need to do something. I know I didn't prepare for my retirement. I know that just not going to be in a good state, when I'm older. And so I decided to start researching,
Mhm.
and I started reading a ton. At the time, my wife was a chiropractor and we had a couple of kids. I worked in IT. I still do IT. And 8 o'clock at night to about midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, I would just sit up and read and listen to podcasts and try to learn a lot about anything and everything.
Mhm.
And at that point, I set up a goal for myself to read 30 books a year, just to try to figure out what it is that I needed to do. And through the course of many years,
Mhm.
I came up with the idea that I either needed to get into finance, insurance, or real estate.
Okay.
And then I chose real estate. And then from there, I spent more time trying to decide, am I going to get into single family, multifamily? Am I going to try to do partnerships? Do I want to manage it myself? Do I not want to manage it myself?
Mhm.
Started looking at properties for years. And in 2017, I purchased my first apartment complex.
Okay.
And I purchased 47 units, 44 unit apartment complex and a triplex.
Okay. So it sounds like if I'm getting timelines right, your what am I doing moment was 2013, and it took you 4 years to get your first one.
Correct. Yes.
Well, I mean that's not too dissimilar to a lot. I mean, I think I decided that I was going to start buying apartments in 2016,
Okay.
and that was my what am I doing moment. It was a full 3 years later that I bought my first. So I mean, I think
Yeah.
yeah, I think if you put our paths on top of each other, they're relatively the same. I think I may have had a head start on you because I had already decided real estate, so
Okay.
yeah. So cool. So where was the 47 units?
In Davenport, Iowa.
Okay. Yeah, I got somebody we partnered with on a Denver deal bought one there just recently. So
Really? Okay.
exactly. So
Sounds
yeah, interesting. Now you said you were born and raised in Iowa. So is that pretty close to your hometown or a different part of the state?
Yeah, so I was born in Mexico City and came here when I was 7 years old
Okay.
and lived in the Quad Cities. So it is my hometown where I bought my first apartment complex.
All right. Nice. Mexico City is beautiful, by the way. That was one place that I was stationed for a little while, but worked out.
Oh,
Yeah. So
got to eat some good food.
Really good food. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, man, the food down there is amazing. And I mean, according to US prices, it was cheap too. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
yeah, you could eat like a king for a couple of bucks, but
Oh yeah.
yeah, it's been over 10 years since I was down there. So, I just remember the great parts. But yeah, so beautiful city. I really, really enjoyed it there. So born in Mexico City, moved to Iowa. So the one you bought is essentially what's been your hometown for most of your life.
Yeah.
What were some of the biggest challenges getting started and getting that first 47 unit?
One of my biggest challenges was I didn't have a lot of money,
Mhm.
and I did not want to do it with a partner when I first started. And the reason for that is because I believe I did not have the right network at that time. The people that I had tried to work with were not a good match
Mhm.
where I was with my mindset and where they were and needs and stuff. So the biggest hurdle was, how do I come up with the money?
Yeah.
And luckily I had some money in a 401k plan. And so I did a couple of things to fix my problem.
Mhm.
One is I started minimizing expenses
Mhm.
with my wife's business and with myself.
Mhm.
We decided to make a lot of changes, pay down a lot of debt, minimize expenses, kind of restructure everything. And I had about 100 and some thousand in a 401k plan. I thought I'd just take it out. And
Yeah.
so I took it out with a penalty, and that's what I used as
Mm.
my down payment. But I did not have enough money for the whole thing by myself.
Mhm.
And through the course of talking to real estate agents, talking to different people, I ended up meeting someone that we became partners, 50-50 partners in the apartment complex.
Mhm.
And so far, it's been a good relationship with them.
Okay.
But
Nice.
I did not know them before
Mhm.
I was introduced to them.
So your real estate agent introduced you. You guys, presumably got to know each other a little bit and said, "Hey, let's do this together."
Yeah, I'm sure my partner did a background check on me and all this
Mhm.
other stuff. He seems to do his due diligence really good. So, but yeah, we talked a couple times, talked
Mhm.
about different things, who we are, what our goals are, and they seem to align with each other. And so we decided to do it.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I was in a partnership that I left a partnership about a year ago, and I think alignment is what when I look back and say, why did I ended up leaving? It's just because there wasn't alignment. I think the alignment up front was we both all of us wanted to get multifamily. We all wanted to buy stuff and make a name for ourselves in the multifamily business, but there wasn't a lot of alignment after that. But yeah, so I'm glad you said that. Your goals were, you think you wanted the same things. That's exactly what I found is probably the most important thing, is that you're aligned at a certain level.
Yep.
So
And they had a lot more experience than I did. They have a lot more
Mhm.
units than I do. Had been doing it for many decades more than I have been doing. And they even came with the structure of how we were going to become partners, how we're going to make decisions, how we're going to get out of it. And so all of those different layers made me feel very comfortable with making a partnership with this person.
yeah, that does help. That does help. Somebody who's been there before and done it and knows how to structure things. So cool, cool, cool. You guys still own that property?
I still do, yes.
Nice, nice, nice. Have you refinanced it any since, or just what's it been like for the last I guess almost 6 years now?
I am in the process of selling it right now.
Nice.
I'm in the process of selling everything I've purchased ever since 2017 right now.
Mhm. Okay.
I'm, re- um, I feel like I go through ever since 2012. I
Mhm.
just started living out dreams. So I'm trying to live as many lives as I can in one life.
Mhm.
And my current life, it's time for me to go to the next one.
Okay. Nice, nice, nice. I love it. So the next life during this life.
Correct.
I like it.
Yes.
I like it. Cool, cool. So what does that next life look like for you?
Yeah. So my next life for me, so
Mhm.
after the apartment complex, I started looking into commercial properties, and I ended up buying two more commercial properties.
Mhm.
And one dream that I've always had ever since I was in high school was to own a coffee shop, to own a brewery, or really back then it was to own a nightclub. But
Mhm.
since I'm older, I have kids, I'm married.
Yeah.
I decided to, with one of the commercial properties that we purchased, to set up a coffee shop and a brewery. And so I currently own 2 other commercial properties plus the apartment complex. And one of them, I own a coffee shop and a brewery that I'm wearing the logo for right
Yeah,
now.
I was just going to ask that, the granary.
Yes. And so I say that because my next life is we're currently listing everything and we're going to sell it all. And I want to turn it into a 100 unit, give or take 20 apartment complex for myself. And take all of the different lessons and everything I've learned to make a much better decision in my next purchase. And at the same time, I'm going to start doing a lot more networking. One of the reasons why I'm glad I'm here with you. And I have been venturing out doing more networking, and I'm going to start helping other people try to achieve their goals and their dreams based off of all the paces that I've put myself through.
Awesome.
And I'd like to get into more real estate, but with the network.
I love it. I love how you said you wanted to live as many lives as possible in one life. I've never thought about it that way, but I mean, we got so much time, you know. I mean,
Yes. Yes and no.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you never know when you're going to live, but I mean, if you live to be 80, I mean, there's so many things you can do, you know. I'm 46 right now. That's a great idea to start thinking, okay, what life do I want to live now? You know, but
Yeah.
I love it. Kind of a mind-opening thing. So, well, cool. That's awesome. So, I mean, along those lines, you talk about the other lives and everything. Where I think now is probably a good time to talk about your why. Something I call the big burning why, the thing that kind of drives you. So, what's your big why?
My big why really comes down to realizing all of the dreams that I've had in my mind ever since I was a little kid. And my why right now is just to achieve my goals, achieve my dreams. I'm working on being a better person every day, learning more and more and more. And one of the big reasons that of where I want to go now is because I want to spend more time with my kids, spend more time at home, and kind of set myself up for retirement.
Yeah.
But not really retire, just keep it going. And at the same time, I'm using myself as a test case with my kids so that when they want to do something, they'll have somebody that they can turn around and say, hey, well, how did it work for you?
Yeah.
Because I've been doing the real estate, the coffee shop, the brewery. We started doing I'm going to start doing podcasts. I started training the kids to do presentations. I have them read with me. I have them work with me. And so we've been traveling together. We took a year off for a while and traveled around to different states and to different countries. And so I can be that test case for my kids when they say, hey, what do you think is going to happen if I do this?
Love it. I love it. That's awesome. Appreciate you sharing that too. So, well, so we talked about, I mean, usually the last question I ask is what's next for you, but we've already kind of gotten into that. But yeah, I mean, besides what you mentioned, anything else what else should I ask you? How about that?
I drive a 68 Chevy Sport Van, if you've ever seen one of those.
Sport van.
Yes.
It doesn't pop to mind when you say this 68 Chevy Sport, you know, then you hit the word van in there. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that one.
So it is the same year concept that they took for the Scooby-Doo van. The only difference is my van has multiple windows around it.
Oh, okay.
So it just has windows all around.
Okay. Is that what you guys use to travel with?
No, we were going to, but then you realize that it's not very fun driving a 1968 van with no power steering and no air conditioning, even if it's been restored.
Yeah. Yeah. Even if it looks cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the plan.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So yeah, I have 6 kids, married.
Cool. What are the age ranges on the kids?
I have a daughter that's 23, and then I have boys from the ages of 15 down to the 4.
Okay, nice.
And
spread too.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's not many people I meet that have a bigger spread in kids than I have. My oldest is also 23. My youngest is 7. So you've got a little bigger spread than I do. So
how many?
I have 5 total.
Oh, so okay. I'm 47. No, 48.
All right. So yeah, I mean, if I would have hit the reset button, one more time, we would have had, probably the same age range and same number. But well, cool. Hey, thanks for sharing your story. We're going to talk with Adam a little bit and then get into that Ask the Expert spot that I love so much. So, Adam, how's it going, man?
I'm doing good. How about you, Brian? Thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely. I'm doing well too. So, do us a favor. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. Yeah, I'd love to.
Mhm.
So I lived in Carson City from the ages of 5 to 27.
Okay.
So I pretty much grew up there. I
Mhm.
recently moved to Reno, Nevada
Mhm.
about 6 months ago, and that's only 30 minutes away from Carson City.
Yeah.
So I was already familiar with Reno, Nevada.
Mhm.
Most of my time working, I've spent in the restaurant business,
Okay.
uh, being the kitchen manager, and now recently switching out to the front of house.
Mhm.
And I enjoy the restaurant business. I may eventually want to, own my own restaurant.
Mhm.
But one of my very first jobs was fencing. It was like a 2-week fencing job.
Mhm.
And this owner of the house is the guy that hired us. And we went up there and we put a rail fence on the side of his house. And
Mhm.
at the end of it, he sat down and he explained to us. He said, "Look, this is how much I use in materials. This
Mhm.
is how much I paid you guys. And this is how much value it put onto my house." And
Mhm.
I was like, "Holy cow, that planted the seed
Yeah.
right there that I wanted to eventually, real estate invest." I've watched properties around the area nearly double in
Mhm.
value every 5 years with the growth here.
Yeah.
And it just took the right time and the right moment for me to really start to say, "Hey, I want to jump into this." I was
Mhm.
saving up some money to eventually buy a single family home and do single family flips.
Mhm.
And then I got the opportunity to enter into a multifamily syndication training program.
Mhm.
So I took that money that I had saved up for the single family home and I put it into the syndication program.
Mhm.
And now I've been working on building contacts, underwriting deals,
Mhm.
raising capital. And that was about 8 months ago.
Yeah.
So everything's going really well. Still looking for that first deal.
Yep.
Got a couple potential ones that could be good. So.
Nice. Nice. Where are you looking for deals?
We're looking for deals. The biggest one is locally in Reno, Nevada, between
Mhm.
Reno and Sparks area. There's about
Mhm.
500,000 people.
Okay.
So there's a decent amount of deal flow, but it's not huge.
Yeah.
We really needed a second market, and we started looking in Houston, Texas,
Mhm.
for deals. And we're also open to some deals in some of the hotter markets in California,
Mhm.
just because that's locally, and there's a
Yeah.
lot of strength investing in local markets because you can build
Mhm.
contacts here and you could really know the market better than
Yeah.
any.
Sounds like you're going on a counter trend too. Most people are in California investing out of state, and you're out of California looking in. So there's good reasons and bad reasons to invest in California, but I do think the market there is great. And my second rental property was in San Diego, and we did amazingly well with that property. But yeah, so I wouldn't shy away from a deal in California. I'm just not that close to it. So whatever. So cool. I love that. Now, one thing I ask everybody, and you're gonna get the same question, obviously. What's your why? Why are you doing this?
So my biggest why is I really want to be able to have financial freedom. I don't have like a family and kids yet. Well, I have a family, but I don't have like kids and a wife and everything. And I'd like to be able to, provide them a life of financial freedom and
Yeah.
teach them how to create generational wealth.
Mhm.
And I would like to be able to spend time like traveling, helping others, giving back to the community, and just really like giving back
Mhm.
to what people have helped me with.
Yeah. Awesome. Love it. Well, hey, we got Salvador on the line. What do you want to ask him?
What are your best methods of making a hard deal work?
Ooh.
Oh, okay. So what are the best methods of making a deal work? A
A hard
hard
deal.
deal work.
Just something that the numbers really,
Mhm.
really aren't working out. Looking at ways to cut expenses or
Mhm.
increase revenue or something like that.
It's a great question. I would say that in my experience with what I've done with myself, I feel that I've made good with my money. I've met my marks as far as making money and not losing money
Mhm.
with my investments. But looking back, I could have made better decisions if there were some factors involved. So I don't know if I would strive to make a hard deal happen by trying to lessen what you're going to make out of it at the end. I think I would look for creative ways of maybe making the deal happen and seeing if you can bring more value to the deal. But I really believe that you're going to have to set a minimum. How much are you trying to make in each deal? Is it 20%, 50%? Are you trying to double your money, triple your money? For me, looking back, I've done good in the sense of so far I've been able to double my money, if not triple my money on my investments. What I'm going to start doing forward is to do more than triple my money in a shorter amount of time. And so if a deal is hard to make happen even at a lower number, which is what I normally do, is
Mhm.
how can I make it work? What can I sacrifice on?
Yeah.
I don't know if I would sacrifice on them unless I came up with a creative way to make it make sense at the end.
Yeah.
And it's important for you to get your money sometimes more on the buy than in the end, because if something's difficult, I've made something. The coffee shop brewery that I set up right now, it was a hard deal to make happen, and I forced it in. And it has taken a lot of work out of me personally than it would have if I wouldn't have just forced it to make it happen.
Yeah. So, I mean, making a hard deal work, I think the answer is creativity, but I would also say that, I think Salvador mentioned it as well. How hard of a deal do you want to make work? There's going to come a certain point in time where I think the more important thing is to know when to say when, know when not
Yeah.
to do that hard deal. Right. But, really with the hard deals, I think a lot of it is just the creativity, understanding the business well enough to be able to be creative in the right spots and look for places to add value is really where it is. Yeah, more than anything else, I'd say look for the places where you can add significant value and focus on those.
And if you're gonna try to get hard deals to work, sometimes you're gonna have to be ready to have a strong stomach, because there's things are gonna pop up even in good deals here and there. Things are gonna go great, then they're gonna go bad. And if it's a hard deal, then you just
Yeah.
be ready to stomach what you're gonna have to endure to
Mhm.
get past it.
Keep your antacids right next to you and your energy
Yeah.
drinks. That's what you're going to need. So, yeah. Good question, though. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you were vetting and looking at potential partners, what was some of the biggest things that you looked at?
What I am going to do now going forward to network and to find partners is I'm going to spend quite a bit of time networking with people to try to get a more intimate understanding of who they are and what they are,
Mhm.
so that I make sure that we're aligned
Yeah.
of where we're going. We got to have, for me, it's going to be a couple of things. It's going to be, we have to be going to the same place. I
Mhm.
understand maybe I think different than this person, and that's fine, but we're going to have to be going the same place. We have to be willing to solve problems similarly, not somebody that's going to want to butt heads.
Mhm.
And I strongly feel that whoever I am going to be partnering with should probably have more units and more experience than I do, because I'm the type of person that I can work through stuff, force myself through stuff, but I'm also willing to sit back and listen
Mhm.
when it comes to these investments with somebody that has more experience.
Yeah. Yeah. And you mentioned something that I've been really focused on recently, and getting to know somebody. But I think I made mention to a lot of people that I got a coach in the EOS system, the Gino Wickman Traction. I mean, Traction is the book, but they talk a lot about core values. And when you're looking at partners, when you're looking at employees, when you're looking at vendors and everything else, you've got to make sure that the core values align. And I think that's part of, you get to know somebody well enough, you can see the core values shining through. And if somebody doesn't align with your core values, it's eventually going to be something that pulls apart, right? So That's one thing that I say when you're looking at partners, first thing, just make sure your core values align, and if they don't, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad thing. It just means that you guys aren't quite going the same direction.
And partners too, especially if it's, say, two partners, both of you guys have to be financially able to handle what's going to come your way. I mean, things can be great, but if you have a large apartment complex, someday you're going to have to throw in 10 grand, 20 grand.
Mhm.
And so both people have to be able to do that. One thing that I have with my partner is a tenants in common agreement, and it spells everything out, how we're putting money out in, how we're taking it out, how much how we'll make decisions with management. If I was to pass away, he doesn't have to deal with my wife. He can decide, whether he wants to or not, and I don't have to deal with his.
Yeah.
What are we going to buy each other out for? So just make sure you have something that spells everything out.
Mhm. The thing about the wife question, I mean, that was something that we had to think long and hard on was, just the succession. I mean, it's a good thing to run through
Yeah.
because I live in a state where all my properties go to my wife, it's
Mhm.
no ifs, ands, or buts. It's the state laws.
Yeah.
But yeah, we came up with some creative ways in our operating agreement to work around that. But anyway, yeah, good question. You're good point there. Really good point. All right.
Awesome. Thank you. What do you look for when it comes to markets? And what are some of your favorite markets?
I am sticking to Iowa right now because it's a strong market. There is a housing demand, and I know a lot of people around here when it comes to real estate
Mhm.
from doing a lot of networking. I am planning on going out to markets where maybe I would want to live in the future. And so the next set of markets that I would be looking towards is where I might want to spend a lot more time than a little bit of time.
Mhm. You going for the warmer markets? Because I hear Iowa winters can get pretty brutal.
Yep. Iowa winters are pretty brutal. One of the things with winters is the snow removal is a big expense here.
Yeah.
For the apartment complex, and so we're gonna go check out the East Coast, down to Florida, all the way up to South Carolina, North Carolina.
Nice.
Maybe a couple of islands just to see, but mainly East Coast is what we're planning on checking out.
Nice.
Plus
Nice.
Iowa.
Plus Iowa.
Yeah, well, Iowa, the Quad Cities is a strong market where I live. Des Moines, I spent some time in Des Moines, Iowa. That's a good market to buy real estate in right now.
Yeah.
They just did a report in the Quad Cities about a month ago about the housing demand. I personally would stay in Iowa, not in Illinois, unless you find a really good deal. And so that's
Yeah.
where I'm headed.
Nice.
Kentucky, maybe I heard is good right now.
Yeah, it's not too far from that either. I mean, you guys are
Mhm.
just north of Louisville, aren't you?
Mhm.
So,
Yes.
yeah, and I mean, to answer the same question, what do I look for in markets? A lot of people are chasing hot markets, and I don't know if I want to be chasing markets. I'm more of a fan of, finding something that's sustainable, something that's going to have sustained growth over, which market's been the hottest for the last 2 or 3 or 4 years, so yeah, that's really what I'm looking for. Sustainable growth. And I mean, part of the sustainable growth is you got to look at what leads to sustainable growth. And, typically you're looking at states that, attract business, attract industry, have a good educated populace and have laws that are favorable to business and to actually landlords as well. So that's kind of what it takes, so those are a couple indicators we look for. And like Salvador, I like my hometown, which is, Salt Lake City area.
Have you ever invested in an opportunity zone or considered investing in an opportunity zone?
It's a good one.
I have not, but I think my criteria for what I will be looking for going forward is going to be from the experiences that I've had with what I have right now. And I just have a one unit, I have 1 bedroom, 1 bath apartment complex.
Mhm.
My goal for what I'm going to do next is going to be at least 2 bedrooms, maybe 1.5, 2 baths at least. And the reason for that is because you can increase rents a lot more than you can with a 1 bedroom, 1 bath.
Mhm.
And so it just kind of, it will give you a little bit more flexibility, whether it's in an opportunity zone or not.
Yeah.
And personally for me.
Yep. Yeah. And I've never touched opportunity zones. I looked at the rules once, and for some reason, I don't remember exactly what it was. For some reason, I looked at the rules and said, I don't know if there's too many red strings attached, but it's been like 3 or 4 years since I looked at them. But long story short, no. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Salvador. That definitely helped answer another question that I kind of had of myself. I was looking at a deal that was, some studios and some 1 bedrooms, but I was thinking like, am I going to be able to increase the rents that much?
Mhm.
So that helped answer a good question. Would you prefer smaller markets or primary markets? I know you're kind of sticking local. Would you tell me a little bit about like advantages of investing in a smaller or a bigger market?
Okay, that is it's a good question. It's a difficult question for me to answer. I will answer it this way. My apartment complex is in the metropolitan area of the Quad Cities. And it's in a town that has 400 some thousand people, or I mean 200 some thousand people, but it's surrounded by other towns that just have a lot more population, a larger population. The coffee shop brewery that I have is in a smaller town. It's in the Quad Cities, but it's kind of on the outskirts of it.
Mhm.
Unless you get to know the people in that small town, I think getting to know the people in that small town would be important.
Yeah.
There might be a different mindset, and so you can't just think that what works downtown will work in a small town. It could be better, it could be worse, it could be the same, but I wouldn't say that it is the same.
I'm going to generalize, and I think you have to generalize on questions like this, but primary markets, they're primary because they're large and a lot of people want to invest there. So typically in primary markets, there's going to be more competition. For newer investors, I think it's going to be harder for new investors to find things in the competitive markets because there's more competition, but on the flip side, when you're in these larger markets, you're always going to have buyers on the back end. Your exit plan is pretty set if you buy a good property. You're going to have vendors. You're going to have plenty of property management companies to choose from. It's easier to raise capital, if your deal's in a Houston or a Dallas or a Charlotte, right? So when you start looking at primary markets, there's definitely some advantages to investing there. They're competitive because there's a lot of good reasons to invest there. In some of your secondary markets, depending on how small you're going, you might have a hard time, finding the vendors. You might have a hard time finding, enough, property management companies to, sift through them and find a really good one. But at the same time, they're not going to be as competitive. So there's drawbacks on both sides and there's benefits on both sides. And it's really just, figuring out which one you want to operate in.
Yeah, that's all great points. One thing you might want to try is if you are local to the town or it's not too far, you might want to try to join like the local Rotary Club or try to find where all the business people, what clubs all the business people are at so that you can start to get to know what the business people are doing in that community. You
Yeah.
might want to start going to city council meetings and meeting city council people to understand where they want the town to go. You also want to pay attention to the town. Is it just a small grocery store? Is it a chain of grocery stores that's maybe coming to town? Is there a YMCA? Are there plans for maybe Amazon's going to be coming to the town? But all of these things you might not know unless you start attending, or start going to organizations or attending events where all the local people from that town are around, so you can start to get an understanding of, okay, what's happening, what's going on. Do the people in the town want the town to grow or do they not? I mean, they might not even want the town to grow.
Yeah. Yeah. And if the city council or the zoning department or the people who, approve the permits don't want it to grow,
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna have a hard time until elections, but
Correct.
yeah. Yep. And that's something, I mean, we're in a small town in Idaho Falls. There's actually quite a large percentage of the population that doesn't want it to grow or change. Right now, I've only lived here for a year and a half, so I'm going with what people have told me. Right now there's a pro-growth city council, but
Mhm.
I mean, different election that could change as well. So knowing
Yeah.
the local politics in the smaller towns is important. In the larger cities, like in a Houston or whatnot, something that has several million people, it still matters, but I think it matters a little bit less in a way, and I'll explain. Because the inventory, there's already a lot of inventory, there's already a lot of demand, and there's already a lot of people there. So you can buy something existing and just manage it well in most of those areas. But anyway, we are out of time now, so I'm going to have one question for each of you to wrap things up. Salvador, you get to go first. How can listeners learn more about you?
They can look me up on Facebook under Salvador Castaneda. I'm also in the process of setting up a website to help people achieve their goals. It's called mycoachsal.com. And it's just a basic site right now, but I'm in the process of redoing it.
Nice. mycoachsal.com. Awesome.
Yes.
And Aaron, same question for you. How can listeners learn more about you?
The best way would be to look me up on LinkedIn, Adam Carroll, or on Facebook. And also you could go to our company website, Palmboa Capital Investments.
Awesome. And we'll put links to all of that in the show notes. So anybody who's interested, just head to the show notes, tap the link, and let that internet whisk you away. All right. Well, hey guys, once again, thanks for coming on the show today. Very much appreciate your time.
Appreciate you having me, and nice meeting everyone.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
Hey, if you like that episode, make sure to subscribe. But more importantly, if you haven't joined our multifamily educational community yet, which we call the Tribe of Titans, you are missing out. Get 30 days free by clicking the link in the description to this episode, or go to thetribeoftitans.info, and we'll see you there.